we go. Good morning. How are you today, Kate? You okay?
Good, thank you, Lee. Good. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. It has been a tough first week back. I know a lot of people. We come back Thursday last week, so we sort of eased our way back into working life. But this week has been absolutely full on. How about yourself?
Yeah, good, good. Thank you. I feel very much the same. I kind of feel that January is the most important month of the year.
Yeah,
Sort of get organised, get things done, get the plan written, and then kind of spend the rest of the year making it up as I go along, to be honest.
a
But yeah,
hundred percent.
similar.
100%. It's where all the big planning meetings happen, don't they, for the year and what we're looking to achieve. And that's really, really good. We always like to just give it a couple of minutes just to let everybody come in. No doubt people are probably trying to grab their cup of coffee and cup of tea and run back to the desk and whatever. Good morning, everybody. So the chat function is open, so feel free to say hello and good morning as you all are. That way we know it's all working. As we're running a webinar on technology, it'd be amazing if the technology works for us all today. We've had our ups and downs this morning, but we've ironed it out and we're good to go. Morning, morning, morning. Good,
Oh,
good, good. What we'll do, Kate, we'll get into it because I can appreciate you've got loads of stuff you want to talk and show. So I'll just get cracking and people will still be coming in as they are now. So good morning to everyone and a very happy Friday to those that are joining us live. What a way to start 2025 with our new webinar. So I'm thrilled to have you with us for another installment of our Friday webinars. We've got a great topic today, along with more lined up throughout the rest of this month and into Feb as well. So it's crazy that we're in January and last year is behind us, but let's get cracking with 2025. As always, we've got a few housekeeping notes before we get started. Our session will run for about 45 to 50 minutes. Feel free to use the chat function as you all are now. If you've got any questions, pop them in that function or the Q&A, and myself and Kate and the team will be more than happy to answer some of those questions for you. We've also prepared a couple of interactive polls as well. So if you can participate and give us your votes, it'd be really good to get Kate's insight as to what she thinks the results are showing. And we'll obviously share the results with you as we go along as well. So adding a little bit of extra insight into our discussion today. So let's get going and make the most of the time that we have together. So to get things started, I'm Lee, co-founder of the Financial Planning Club. And as always, we've got a good mix of members and non-members. So for those that are not too familiar with us and what we're up to, if you're a business owner, we have the club. The club is a membership, and it's all about taking your business to the next level. So the club offers a tailored membership designed just for you and bespoke to your business. We provide everything from strategic planning to focused 90-day accountability sessions, helping you stay on track and work towards your business goals. For the community, that's for everybody. So we host free communities on WhatsApp. It's split into 5 specialized groups. It's all about that peer-to-peer technical support. People are stuck on particular cases, don't know what lender to go to, where they should, who they should turn to. And that's what the WhatsApp groups are there for. Somebody who's been there and done it, and they're happy to give you some direction. So whether you're here as a member or just exploring with us today, we're glad to have you with us. So thank you for giving us an hour of your time. So touching on the club, there is no better time than today to become a member of the club. Q1 is absolutely packed with value for our members. So they're already starting the year with a brand new 3-year business plan or an updated version of their business plan, which is so important to have in your business. It's unbelievable how many owners we speak to that do not have a 3-year business plan. We also develop a strategic 12-month roadmap from that 3-year business plan. We break that down into 90-day sprints. Everybody at the club, along with our collaborators, play a huge part in ensuring our members succeed this year. So we've got our business plans, we've got our roadmaps, we've got our 90-day sprints, we've got our CEO roundtable coming up this quarter as well. And we've got our face-to-face event, which I'll share some more information with you all a bit later on in the slide deck. But everything that we do at the club centers around accountability. All right, so grab some time with us and see how the club can help elevate you and your business and achieve those goals this year. Scorecard, if you haven't seen it or if you haven't been involved with it already, our scorecard is a great tool that helps identify areas of your business that might need that little extra attention. All right. And there are some links going in the chat. So feel free to have a look at these. We'll also put all of these on an email for you as well. So don't worry about rushing to do it now. You'll get everything on an email. But do the scorecard. It's just a multiple choice question scorecard app. It'll identify areas of your business that might need a little bit more attention. We also send you back a bespoke plan as to how the club, our members, our collaborators can help you and your business, because so much of our time is spent working in our businesses and not enough time working on them. So always take a step back, assess and reflect. It's key to growth and improvement. So as I said, everybody will get an email with the scorecard app afterwards as well. Just touching on the community side briefly, this is where it all began for us. We're now sitting at over 1,300 community members within our WhatsApp groups. It's absolutely buzzing in those groups. It is split into specialized areas. So we've got a bespoke WhatsApp group for financial advisors, one for mortgage advisors, one for ops managers, power planners, and business owners. And it's all about keeping those conversations relevant and focused. All right. People love being a part of something bigger, sharing ideas, tackling challenges together, and connecting with others who do truly sort of understand their roles. So again, someone's been there, done it, and they're more than happy to point you in the right direction. So if you're not involved in the community, feel free to come and hang out with us on WhatsApp. That'd be really, really good. Our collaborators. So again, we're very selective about who we partner with at the club. Missions have to align, and that is to help drive the industry forward. And that is why Kate from Timeline is with us today, which is amazing. So we love the amazing support, the ideas and the input from all of our collaborators, from platforms to compliance support, operational overhauls, tech integrations, AI recruitment. We've got mystery shoppers going on and just everything in between. Our collaborators do play a huge part in the success of our club members. So again, a big shout out and a big thank you to all of our collaborators. As mentioned, we are on the road again, May the 8th. In the centre of London, we have a huge focus on making your business future fit with a real growth mindset. So our face-to-face events are for business owners and exclusive to our club members. Peer-to-peer roundtable collaboration is at the forefront of the whole day. The best learning comes from those that have already walked the path. All right. So our goal is for members to leave exactly like they did last time. And that was feeling stimulated, that was energized, that was enthusiastic and inspired to push boundaries this year. So as always, look, we do have a few spots for non-members to come and hang out with us for the day. So after today's webinar, there will be a little feedback form, because feedback, again, is incredibly important. There will be a little part of that feedback form that says, are you interested in our face-to-face event? If you let us know, we'll send you the full details by the end of the month, as we're just putting the final touches on the agenda. All right, guys, we are nearly there. Up and coming webinars. These are two outstanding webinars that we've got lined up. So one next week on the 17th of January, we are building high net worth propositions with core and satellite investing. So this is perfect for anybody working with high net worth clients. We'll explore how financial planners can compete really with private banks and wealth managers by using core and satellite investing. And then fast forward a couple of weeks to the 31st, I think it is, Friday the 31st. Again, it's always at 10 o'clock. We've got the amazing Julie from Octopus Money joining us, and it's about maximizing sale value and servicing smaller clients. So if you're looking to unlock value in your business, this webinar is absolutely for you. We'll dive into elevating your client book, maximizing sale value, and creating innovative solutions for smaller clients to boost productivity. Got to have your tongue and your teeth in for some of these sentences for sure. That leads us to today. That's enough about me and the club. Let's get cracking with Kate from Timeline. Driven by passion for retirement and education, Kate has dedicated her career to helping financial professionals understand the impact of their decisions on clients. 4 years ago, Kate joined Timeline Portfolios to champion technology that reduces cost and improves client outcomes. which is why we're all together today as we take a look at future-proofing financial planning with technology. Kate, over to you. My part is done.
Thanks, Lee. And hello, good morning to everyone on this chilly but sunny Friday morning. Thanks for having me. As Lee kindly said, I joined Timeline, gosh, I actually think it's like 5 years ago now, Lee. You know, that's how time is flying, with kind of one goal really, and that's to how do we ensure the client outlives the money. But before I kind of spoil any of the slides we're going to run through, if I can take control, then I'm going to share my screen and just walk you through a few slides before we kind of jump into the exciting part of the tech. Please do, as Lee's already said, make this session as fluid as possible. Do ask questions, do shout out. I want to try and make sure that the time that we've got together is as beneficial as possible for everybody on today's webinar.
Absolutely. How are you with sharing your screen? Are we there? Do I stop share? Do you take over?
You can stop share if that's okay, or I can just replace you.
Go on, replace me.
It was a little rude on a Friday morning, but
I'll let you off on this occasion. There you go. So it's all yours.
Perfect, thank you. Just testing that for somebody that can see it, that you can absolutely see my slide timeline. Welcome. Fab, thanks, Lee. So I guess first question, Lee, I think you've got a poll for this. I'd really like to quickly understand from everybody's viewpoint who's heard of Timeline ahead of today.
So the poll is live, yes or no. We'll share the results. It's running a race of a 60-40 at the minute, Kate. 60-40.
Fab.
There we go. 74, 70, 80 votes. Yeah, brilliant.
Brilliant.
Thanks. Loads of participation.
Okay.
Very interesting. Still going. We're pretty much there. I'll just end that and share the results of everybody. So we're at 63-37, Kate. So that's good. That's nice. We like that. Brilliant.
Thanks, Lee. So I guess this a starting place then from that point of view is really key. So, Timeline was born back in 2013, and essentially we ran a financial planning tool that focused on deaccumulation. And what we wanted to do was stress test clients' financial plans in order to really truly understand a robust way of stress testing if the client is going to outlive the money. And unlike today's conventional cash flow modeling tools that are a lot about advisors having to input their own assumptions, advisors having to think and kind of think about what kind of percentages and rules they want to apply to a strategy. This is actually looking at underlying asset class behavior going right back to 1915 and stress testing an individual client's plan. So this is really focusing on the client, what they have as a goal, and more importantly, the investment structures they're using. And that can be any investment solution of your choice as the advisor or firm. It's actually just then looking at the underlying investment choice and those asset classes to see how they've behaved over time. And we'll go through a little bit more detail when I jump into the tech. But essentially, our mission was really simple. We were born to make sure that we could help millions of people plan, invest, but more importantly, retire with that confidence. And the way that we do that is by focusing on the individual, their circumstances, and what they're looking to achieve. And what's really interesting is that I think I guess we could describe the essence of Timeline falls into two categories. We absolutely believe through our DNA at Timeline that we are here to reduce costs for the advisor. And that is through both the technology that advisors and firms use and how much they're paying out for each of those techs, and actually how much of that tech across an advisor firm actually talks to one another. So kind of underpinning the essence of Timeline is thinking about how do we continue to help advisors reduce costs? How do we ensure that we're building technology that talks to one another? And how do we do all of that with the end client in mind to make sure that those scenarios and those plans that we're building have been stress tested? So I just wanted to take a minute because I think we've got a different mix of an audience, should I say, in terms of some that have started out, some that are running their firms. But just before I share some data with you, I'm running it again, Lee, if we can run a quick poll on, what is it that you think today the average advisor or advisor firm spends on tech?
Interesting. Where do you think these results are going to come in at, Kate? If you could shout one out before we get the voters in, where do you typically see the market?
I think we see it's in the 4K plus.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that seems to be evident there, doesn't it? Really, everybody's jumping in that sort of region at the moment. So when you look at this, you're looking at the overall of the business and
Yeah,
all of
so
their tech, absolutely every bit of equipment that they're using. Yeah.
yeah, everything from kind of fact find to
Yeah.
risk to letter of authority to then how you're doing financial planning, platforms, because you know that plays a part in the overall cost to the advisor firm, compliance, how are you making sure your files are being checked? So everything that kind of the minute you have to service a client down to the paper in the office, what sort of tech, whether or not you're using Excel or you know a Microsoft PowerPoint, you know, because you have to pay for those licenses, you know, what does that tech look like and what is it costing the average advisor or firm today? And I think I went a little bit early on this, Lee, so apologies because I was
Yeah.
kind of
I was
spoiler
thinking,
alert.
hold up, we're not on slide 4 yet, Kate. She wants the poll already.
Perfect. And that's really interesting that 31% we're in the 4K plus mark. So
Yeah.
thanks everybody.
And I'll just share so everybody else can see the results of that as well. So yeah, it was near the higher end of the scale, wasn't it? The 4K plus mark.
Perfect. Thank you. So that kind of is a spoiler alert to kind of where then today Timeline thinks about the world. And I'm just going to actually skip a slide. This is the actual landscape of today's advisor world. So this is some research that we've run. And as you can see, we've kind of broken these down into different swim lanes, depending on the advisor or indeed the firm that's on today's webinar. But you can see from the left, fact find, going into risk, thinking about asset mapping, to then into kind of the greeny blue, which thinks about cash flow and tax and model planning, client portal in the middle. So these are kind of all different areas of the ecosystem that advisors are looking at today. And we've then ran a poll that says on average, we've got advisors spending £3,000 in this arena. We then, between sort of e-portals and client messaging, e-signatures, digital content, spending around 3. You can see research and due diligence, suitability reports, etc. Advisors are spending around 2. Anyway, I don't need to walk you through. You get the message in terms of the fact that as an industry, advisors today are spending a huge amount of money looking at how they run a business, servicing the client and the costs associated with that. So with that in mind and the way that Timeline thinks about the world, we now today home a super app. So the bit that I'm going to talk you through today is our digital technology that helps advisors have one piece of technology homing everything in one place, and essentially describing that as a cradle to grave solution, so that you've got onboarding, you've got fact find, you've got risk, you've got a way to be able to go in and build clients' financial plans and stress test those, along with making sure if you're wanting to integrate that with letter of authority chasing, and how do you ensure that you're stress testing against that, against any investment solution that you may be using for your client. And the answer to this is that actually the super app is to help reduce costs. You're not paying out for those number of different technology providers, but more importantly, each part of this puzzle talks to one another. So when you're in the super app, and we'll go through it in a moment, you're able to actually look at the client, depending where they are, to make sure that every part is going back to the client's financial goals. Lee, just on that point, I know we focused for a couple of seconds on the cost element for an advisor, which is kind of something, but more importantly, I'd like to just quickly understand time, you know, the human time being spent here with advisors. So can we run the third poll? And I promise this is the last one, everybody, around letter of authority, and in terms of how many hours advisors think they tend to spend chasing a letter of authority for a client. Interesting. And of course, depending on the provider, you know, whether or not that's a 1 chase or a 10th chase. But interesting, 40, 45. So everyone's really be feeling the pain in terms of the chasing authorities. 30 hours plus there. I mean, wow.
That's huge, isn't it? It's 50% of the room said 30 hours plus.
Yeah, and that's a mega amount of time on something that really shouldn't take that much of our professionals' time away from the financial planning piece. So really interesting. So I think the results really go to show that we are all spending not only an awful amount on costs for the tech that we're using, but we're then spending a huge amount of man hours, woman hours, people hours on actually how we're going through to be able to get the information we then need as well. So one part of the puzzle that I'm going to walk you through today is to actually look at our letter of authority. And we've actually seen now that as part of the letter of authority that works within our super app, we're now saving 80% of advisors' times, because we take that through the digital process on your behalf. And we're seeing at the moment that an average of 35 industry days it's taking an average advisor to complete a letter of authority. We're actually completing those letter of authorities now in 15 days. So we're really halving the way that we think about letter of authorities by using technology to be able to underpin the chasing and understanding the process. And as you can see here, as we think about it, 442 million is wasted every year in efficiencies to processing on average 3.9 million letters of authority across our industry. So if we think about the fact that we've got 108 people on today's webinar, 43, I think 43% of those people suggested they were spending 30 hours plus, times that by the 442, you can easily see where we're getting those sort of numbers from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So today's focus really then is to kind of walk you through and share three really important facts. We believe that it's really crucial to have one data set, one client data that is your source of truth across all of your different systems. How do we ensure that we're delivering what we describe as 8 best-in-class tools? And that's everything from your fact find to your risk to your cash flow flowing and so on. And actually, how do we ensure that by having one data set and having those best-in-class tools, we're actually delivering unlimited efficiencies for you and your business? It's also worth sharing at this stage that Timeline has been built in a modular sense. So you can plug and play with any part of the puzzle that you want to. So if you're already using a risk questionnaire and actually it works for your business, great. But you want to use the fact finding, you want to use the cash flow planning, fantastic. All of which is integrated, so therefore you can use it. This isn't me saying you have to use every part of the puzzle. This is about us working with financial firms to have a look at how we can help slot into their ecosystem they're currently working with today.
Brilliant. Okay, I just want to touch on something quickly. We had a question come in, and it just relates back to the LOA slide that we just discussed. So when you say digital LOAs, are these accepted by all providers? Because some systems don't have integration, or they don't have all the providers signed up to it. Where does Timeline sit in that?
Perfect. Great question. Thank you. And I'll walk you through the app in a second to show you that. But essentially what the system does within the Timeline tech is it identifies whether or not that letter of authority is a wet signature, a dry signature, or an e-signature. And when I say dry, that's normally a wet but printed and sent to the provider.
Yep.
What the system is also clever enough, and the team that sits behind this more importantly know, is how long the SLAs are for each of those providers and what type of signature they require. So the team behind it will know as soon as you've sent all of that off to a client, we take all of that out of your hand. So whether or not it needs to be electronic, whether or not it needs to be a digital or a wet, so we know which providers need what and how long they're going to take it. So when I use the word digital, this isn't necessarily mean about the provider accepting a digital signature. It's about using the digital capability to be able to do the best and most efficient way to get that letter of authority to a provider. At the moment, I think we've sent just over, I think as of this morning, 1,000 letter of authority. Don't quote me because it changes by the hour at the moment. And we've had a 98% success rate of the letter of authorities that have been sent out to providers so far. And when I walk through the system in a second, you'll see that we have tried and tested all of the providers down to your Dorking office of Aviva that looks after your old Friends Provident DB transfer schemes. So, you know, we've kind of really turned every stone, made sure we've got every provider in there. And hopefully that answers the question. If not, please do shout with any more. Should we jump into the tech? That's why we're here today and have a walk through it.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the tech. It'd be good for everybody to see it. And again, just keep the questions coming. If anybody's got any questions at any part during any part of the tech, whatever it may be, just let us know. That'd be fine.
Perfect. Thanks, Lee. Again, just to clarify, you can see my screen now that says Timeline white.
Absolutely. Yep.
Brilliant. So for everybody that isn't familiar with Timeline, and for those that may be but haven't seen this, this is the super app. So this is where we home all of the client information, be it fact find, be it risk, be it the financial solutions that you're currently using, be it analytics, which is our version of FE, allowing you to go in and compare portfolios, any MPS provider, or any basket of goodies that you build for a client in the same way that you would do in FE. This is our arena that homes all of your information about your clients in one place. You can see it as white and Timeline, but this can become your company, your brand, your logos, so that if you're using it in front of a client, as far as they're concerned, it's your piece of kit. And more importantly, any outputs that you would print out of the system, because at every single part of the way, it will produce a document for you to be able to print and share with a client. It's printing off with your colours and your logos. So just bear that in mind as we walk through today. I've got it on privacy settings at the moment, as you can see at the bottom here, but of course at any stage you can undo that to see your full client list. But for today's purposes, I'm going to keep it in privacy. And the last thing I would share is just that this is a really great interactive way of doing financial planning. And as we walk through it, I hope it demonstrates that actually it's a great way to be able to open some of those conversations with clients as we think about it. So let's start by having a look at a client. So when we think about the system, we have our list of clients and think about actually we've got every part of that digital channel in one place. So essentially at the moment, there's 3 ways for you to be able to pull your client data into Timeline. One is via your back office system. So we have integrations with the likes of IO, Xplan, and so on. So you can simply go in and import your client data into the arena. 2, you've got a fact find option, which I'll walk through in a second. But if you send a fact find from the system to your client, they will complete it. It will automatically create a client's financial plan. So no rekeying of any data in those 2 options. Or thirdly, because we do sometimes have advice firms where clients are just not, they're just not there with computers, not a problem. You've got the option to manually input a client detail. So if you wanted to sit with a client and do that. So they're your 3 options to be able to get clients' data into the arena today. So starting with fact find, you can see that it's a really clean system in the way that we think about how do we record the information and keep an audit trail. So first and foremost, on the right-hand side, you've got templates. So for you and your business, you can go in and set up your own templates. So we've got advice firms that either have annual review template, new client template, or maybe an ESG focused template. Or maybe you just want to ask some kind of round the edges questions, and therefore we've got a free text box allowing you to be able to go in and add some free text questions. So as part of joining the Timeline journey, you'll have one of our advice success managers work with you to set up the templates that work for you and your business. Once those templates are then set up, you can see it's really easy, as I was saying, whether or not to fill the fact find out yourself, which is a simple case of selecting your template and going through the questions, or indeed sending that fact find to the client. So you would simply select the fact find of choice that you're wanting to send and complete the client's details and send it out. And at this stage as well, you can also share whether or not you want to send it to a partner as well. So it's a really simple way of sending out a fact find to a client. And once you're in the fact find, you can see here that you've got the name of the type of fact find that you've sent to that individual, when it's sent, whether or not it's been completed or not completed, or any actions. Or indeed, you can go into the field of fact find out yourself. And this is the screen your clients would see whether or not you were doing it or they were doing it. It would simply be broken down into the different boxes that they're used to with any other fact find they may have completed in the past. So really quick, really simple, send it out to a client. As soon as it comes back, there's an actions button here that allows you to be able to download the report that's sent through. So if you wanted to keep that in a different CRM system, or you wanted to keep that in a different place for a compliance file, easily downloadable and share with a client. I'm not going to pause for any questions unless indicated by Lee, but please do shout. Exactly the same with the risk questionnaire. You're able to go in, you've got a risk questionnaire. Timeline's own in-house risk questionnaire looks at 3 areas. So we focus on knowledge and experience. We focus on understanding, but more importantly, we think about capacity for loss. So actually, when we think about risk questionnaires, and in our experience, they've been a huge amount of open-ended questions around how comfortable are you with loss? Well, what's loss? How old am I? When am I going to have this apparent loss, and what impact does that have? So we really start to think about how do we link the risk profile to the client. More importantly, the way that our risk questionnaire works is it will look back at the client's goals. So actually, if Kate is 38, is coming back a risk score 5, but actually I've completed the fact find and I've got some particular goals, and actually I need to be thinking about a bit more of a level 6 of risk, or potentially a level 7, it will start to identify unexpected answers and areas where we're suggesting portfolios that would be better or better suited, should I say, to the client's goals. So at every point of the system, the idea is that we always go back and focus on the client's financial planning goals.
Real. Okay, just a couple of questions.
Of course.
Obviously, the way you plug into the likes of the CRMs to pull data through, does data go the other way? So if they're completing fact finds and risk profile. Does that go back to IO as well, or X-Plan? Does it sit back on that system?
Not at the moment. One-way integration at the moment, Lee,
Okay.
but we are working with the teams to be able to push that back, as we understand Nirvana would be clearly to push it 2 ways to go back into the system.
Absolutely. So does that mean, what about sort of reminders and notes on IO? Does that pull through onto Timeline's platform as well?
Depends on how you're setting it up. So at the moment, it doesn't strictly pull through those reminders and notes into the system. But when you've set a client up, there are different questions in the system, such as annual review and date of birth, so that you can then tick a box to say, remind me of annual review. So it will then also appear in Timeline as well as IO.
Okay, cool. So certain things, the two-way integration, is that on the implementation plan? Is that something that you got your eye on doing?
It's absolutely with the team at the moment. And the best way, and I'm going to get told off by somebody for the terrible explanation for this, because I'm not a coder nor a developer, but my understanding is that we've got a two pin plug. We need a 3-pin plug. So at the moment, we've got teams looking at how we make sure that 2 can become a 3-pin plug.
Yeah, exactly that. And does Timeline integrate with Salesforce?
Not at present, no.
Not at present, no, fine. No, that's fine. Up to date with the questions, I think.
Brilliant. So just to recap, fact find digitally, build your templates to suit your business and the types of demographic that you're speaking with. It can be sent digitally out to a client. And then as soon as the client's completed it, it will automatically rekey all of that information and create that financial plan. Risk questionnaire looks at the client's goals, understands the attitude to risk and their capacity for loss, and starts to map out a suggested portfolio and any unexpected answers, thinking always back to the client's goals that you've put into the system. We've then got the letter of authority piece where we spoke about earlier. So this is where, and back to the question that was asked earlier, how does the system know? We've then got to send a letter of authority. So as soon as you've put your firm details in once, it will automatically pre-populate that in. You spoke about tongues and teeth earlier, Lee. So you don't need to be re-entering the firm details every time. Also, if the client has completed the fact find, it will automatically pre-populate all the client's information in this section here. So again, you're not having to go back in and rekey John Smith's name and his date of birth. And the system is really clever and intuitive that it would also sense check any NI numbers before it sends off. So in case there's been a miskey or somebody's just misremembered or there's been an error, it will automatically do a bit of an NI search to make sure that that NI does indeed match John. So we're not wasting any time with the letter of authority going and then somebody coming back to say it doesn't work or it doesn't match. What you can then do is add any information. So we feel at the moment we've got lots of advisors and firms that have got sort of a set of questions that they like to send with their letter of authority. You can pop all of that into this free text box. It's as big as you like. We're actually working on a little attach button here so that you can just attach any kind of templates or questions as firms that you ask. But at the moment, free text for you to be able to pop that in. We see this as an example for where people may be requesting information for a DB scheme and they'd like the last 3 years calculations. So you're able to pop that straight into the box and that will come through as well. You can then choose the type. And this is where you can add a policy and provider and as many as you like to one letter of authority request. This will then go off to the client for signatory, and then I was talking about earlier, the team that sits behind this will then go through and digitally or not digitally, depending on the provider, chase that provider for the letter of authority. What you can then, beg your pardon.
Sorry, just a quickie. Is the NI checking against internal records or is it connected to an external source?
It's an external source checking the NI number.
Brilliant. Thanks.
You can see here that then you would end up with a dashboard of all the different providers that you may have sent a letter of authority to. And in this case, what you will also have is an estimated completion time, because again, the system is clever enough to know whether or not that's a 3-day turnaround if it's a fundment, because we know they're straight through in and they're great with those processing requests, or crumbles, now who do I pick on for the negative? Aberdeen, may take 30 days. Let's be fair. Please, no offense to either provider. So it will automatically give you an estimated completion date so that you know what's going on, whether or not it's been signed by the client or yet to be signed. And then if you click into it, you'll also have where are the team chasing, what is the contact details, and any chases that have been made, so that you as the advisor or firm can always see the progress. And if you wanted to jump in at any point, you know who's been speaking with, what the contact details are, and how to get hold of them. And then, of course, you can also look at downloading any letters of authority that come in as well. So again, at the moment, if you're wanting to attach that somewhere else or keep a separate record, everything is downloadable from the system, or it's saved within Timeline system itself.
We see untold messages about who's got the contact number for so and so, because I need to make a call. So it's good that you've got that little bit in to save them time researching telephone numbers, which I think people spend far too long doing, which is why they jump in the WhatsApp group and loads of people say, call this number, it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think most of these groups have 30 odd hours, probably 28 of those are looking for telephone.
Looking for a number. Yeah, exactly that. Couple of questions on the risk profile. What is it based upon? Is it de facto, Oxford? What is the risk profile
It's
based
our own in-house priority risk questionnaire. It's based on the geometric Brown model.
Yeah.
And I can share the methodology with everybody. And for those, we worked with Rory Percival and the FCA to be able to actually go through kind of rigorous testing on the questionnaire and how we've asked the questions and how we understand the capacity for loss. So it's our own house. It's not based on anybody else's methodology.
Cool.
We do map, though, to other methodologies. So therefore, if we've got, as I was mentioning earlier, timelines built in a modular sense, so therefore you can plug and play if you are using a different type of risk questionnaire.
Love that. Also, for those that don't have the facility to maybe do the LOA online, can the advisor print out for the client to sign? Can they then upload it and then resend it using the tech and everything in between? Yeah, is that all good?
Yep, you can indeed.
Smash.
But where they may not have access to something digitally, this is where the team will understand that as well. So there's always somebody at the end of the phone to be able to support the letter fact chasing as well.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks, Kate.
No worries. So let's now jump into the financial plan. And I'm going to spend a little time in here today. I'm conscious of time, but I just kind of want to focus on a couple of different areas. So you'll remember at the start of the webinar, I spoke about how Timeline thinks about financial planning differently and how we stress test individual clients' plan based on the asset class behaviour. And what we're essentially doing is trying to understand whether or not the client is going to outlive the money. And we look at a number of different factors around goals, what they're invested in, their age, what are they hoping to achieve? And we plug all of that into a big engine that then kind of gives you a starting point. So what I've done today for ease is John Smith, I've plugged in some details here, which I'll go through. Essentially, the plan is coming out at less than sustainable. So what essentially that means is if we go back to 1915, we've run 30-year rolling scenarios on John's plan. And essentially what it's saying is across that period, he's not going to be able to sustain the goals and lifestyle that he's looking to. So when we think about the world, it's easier for me to use this chart and the way that we think about it. So we believe any client that sits in red is clearly unsustainable and needs that financial advice to be able to look and understand how they can improve that. Less than sustainable is great because it means that actually we're nearly there, but actually we can think about how we work with our clients to make tweaks and make the plan better for the client and certainly the outcome. We'd like every client to be in the green area, which is sustainable, which means the client is going to outlive the money. And of course, anything that's in purple again needs some advice from an advisor, because if we've got potential excess, it means that we need to start thinking about IHT, gifting, and actually going back in to revisit the plan and the goals the client might have. So this is kind of the metric that we think about at Timeline about where a client should sit. And you can see here that I keep mentioning these words scenarios, these stress testing, and we think about historically what we look at is world war events. So, for example, you've got things in front of you: wars, pandemics, hyperinflation. We think about governing bodies. So I've got a great chart that, we're going to run out of time today, but I'll happily walk you through, or please do pop me an email. It looks at all the governing powers. from 1915, how that's had an impact on investing and the different asset class types. So it kind of puts everything into the underlying engine. So there's no pressure on the advisor to be thinking about what assumptions should I be using, what have I not considered, and how am I ensuring this is continually stress test for my client. And so we go back to here, and this is John's basic information. He's saying that he'd like to retire at 65. He'd like 60,000 spending from that point. He's currently employed, and this is his income. The system, again, is clever enough that it will plug all of your taxes, all of your state pensions in, and it will amend those into the system as and when those change each year. So there's no thinking or pressure, as I say, on the advisor to make sure that everything is up to date and reflected correctly. So it's a really basic portfolio. He's got a GIA, he's got some cash, he's got some ISA, and he's got a SIP. And for the ease of today, I've just popped those in a balanced portfolio, and we'll walk through that in a second. And you can see that anything that you want to download as a financial plan for the client, you can do so. And any notes or comments you make throughout anybody's financial plan as part of those conversations will all pull through to the digital report that you can print off for a client. But this, for me, is absolutely the essence of why Timeline was born. So what I'm about to show you, I think, is the magic, the advisor's playground in terms of how you start now to really connect with your clients in the way that we demonstrate, and more importantly, show the value of advice. So I'm going to go into charts and tools, and there's some fantastic charts here that I'd love to walk you through another day. But I want to show you the most important part of our puzzle, which is the compare plans piece. So we remember that John, he's inputted, and that could have come from IO's import, or it could have come from the fact find that John's completed. But we understand today that John is not going to be able to sustain what he's looking for. So what we're able to do is duplicate the plan straight into the system. And I have gone through this as a financial advisor. And you'll see that in yellow, I've sat down with my client, I've had a conversation and had a look, and the system has highlighted all of those changes in yellow. So as a financial advisor, I've sat with John, and actually we've had a conversation that one of his real key goals is to retire at 63. We've not changed any of that spending, so we'd like to ascertain that spending. Actually, he would like a holiday, so we've popped that in there. The plan age is going to run till 98. That's because the ONS data has looked at John and his postcode, and he's looking at when his likely age of death is going to be, all of which you can override if you know circumstances about the client that you want to change. I've identified that he has areas that he could be making contributions into the pension and indeed the ISA. The income source hasn't changed, other than we've reduced it by 2 years because he'd like to reduce the years of working by 2. And now, as an example today, I've put a timeline against this portfolio. You can use any portfolio of your choice, and I'll show you that in a second, that you can plug against it. But rather than looking at the balance, this goes back to the point around how do we think about risk? How do we educate clients that actually risk and return are related? And how do we ensure that we're making those decisions around our top level allocation? And what I've also done based on today's world is think about the withdrawal order. So a lot of people think that actually we can evenly split it. But actually what we need to think about is what's the tax implication? What does that look like? We've just seen the world of pensions get turned upside down. That's going to have an impact on our withdrawal orders. So as an advisor, I've gone through and had this conversation with John to suggest these high level changes that we could think about. And suddenly the plan has gone from 50% to 89% of the time. So what that's allowed us to do is sit down and have an open conversation to think about all the things that as an advisor I'd recommend John does without doing any of them. So what we've able to demonstrate is the value of the advice, what that means for John, what the type of next steps you'd be discussing, but we've been able to play with it in the system without actually going away and making any amends to the portfolios or any amends to how he might be investing, be it wants to open a SIP, has only got an ISA. We're actually able to kind of create this landscape with a client to really talk through what they're looking to do. And in my opinion, demonstrate the value of that advice.
Love that. Here's a good question, Kate. So if an advisor is using Voyant or Truth, at what point would that report complement Timeline? Where would you use both? Or do you think Timeline in isolation is enough?
Great question. And gosh, had somebody have asked me that back in 2013 to 2015, I'd have said no, Voyant is by far the system to be using. I would say that Timeline over the years has edged ever so closer and is now sitting on par with the likes of a Voyant. I think where we see the landscape today, we've got a mixture of advisors that use Voyant and Timeline to complement each other. Because if they've built a client's financial plan in Voyant and they've perhaps used their own assumptions, or I believe there's a button you can toggle to have the system, you can then use Timeline to kind of plug those details in to run that stress test, that real robust under the bonnet stress test of a client's financial plan, because it's then looking at the asset class data. So we've got a lot of advisor firms that still use this in kind of a complementary fashion to both.
Yep.
Especially where you've got a client in Voyant who's got real complex protection needs. There may be an element to use both. But we have now a huge advisor wave that are just now coming into the Timeline arena and using Timeline for their financial planning needs.
Perfect.
What I would also say, and look, I don't want to load it, but you can see here, there's a really great way to then be able to build a third plan. So at any point, if you wanted to, and I'm just going to, so I don't know if it allow me to do it because of the security settings, but you could build a third plan as well now. So if you really wanted to kind of do some gifting or some IHT planning, you could then almost take this, because we understand now we've got a legacy that's built from the changes that we've made. We can then build a duplication plan that talks about actually IHT planning. So you can kind of really see how you're starting to build the client's journey and what that means and how you can demonstrate it within the system.
Okay, what about clients with assets in a different currency? Can other currencies be used? Euro, dollar?
At the moment, the system will only look at pounds.
Okay.
A couple of other things that I just wanted to highlight is longevity. So this is another great conversation piece. And I will quickly touch on the fact that during the system, you've got a huge amount of explainers. Hopefully the system has jumped and you're now on a table saying explaining the longevity chart.
Yes.
Hopefully not
Yes.
perfect. So I just wanted to highlight that. So if anyone's thinking, gosh, it's a lot to take in, completely understand that. But throughout the system, there's explainers, there's videos and the description, and there's also examples. So if you're with a client, you think, oh, how would I explain that in an example fashion? There's lots of explainers. But the longevity piece is a really strong, powerful tool, because actually we think about the way of retirement planning that we're going to have this age of death. And then we think about our ages in terms of when we'd like to retire. But actually, what we don't think about is the chance of surviving to that age of death and actually what that means. So there's a really great way here to start thinking with your clients, especially around that spending category when you hit retirement, in terms of John is a very basic example of 60,000 until the age of death. But actually, we often know that we aren't going to hit that. So how do we help clients educate around spending? Being comfortable to be able to go into retirement spending and doing what they want to do. So we can start to think about how we stagger and tier some of those spending mechanisms that we can talk to clients about.
So I think that helps with a question that's just come in about reducing expenditure with aging, less drawdown. So that exactly does
Absolutely.
that for you.
And I'd happily walk this person who's asked the question through this chart, because I think it's really powerful, because actually it's a great way, as you say, to be able to have that conversation that we don't need to do it. And very quickly on the balance piece, this is a great way, very quickly, when we think about financial planning. And one of, I think, advisors' biggest pain points is noise. Their clients hear so much noise from so many different avenues that they don't know whether or not to think about that or this or this or that. And, an advisor's tough job is to be able to help help their clients drown out that noise and focus on it. This is one example of one client's stress testing plan from their retirement age to the age of death. And all of these individual lines is our engine running that stress test on behalf of a client all the time. So it's a really great way to say, look, Mr. Client, this is the robustness of the system that starts to think about the way that we stress test a client's plan. But I don't want you to focus on the noise. What I want you to focus on is that's being taken care of in the background. So actually what I want us to focus on is our medium, let's assume we're going to talk about the likely of a client's journey. This is what we're going to focus on. And actually what that means is you're going to outlive the money, and we're going to be able to establish the goals that you're looking to achieve, rather than all of this noise that we have to think about all the time. So it's kind of almost giving that reassurance and that peace of mind to the clients that there's lots going on under the bonnet and the advisor has control of it. But what we need to focus on is how we get you to the point of achieving those goals.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I'm really conscious of time because I know that we're at 50 minutes, dead on the nose. And there's lots of kind of different areas. You can see that we've got IHT planning. We have a fantastic live track functionality, again, that allows you to be able to go on an auto track a client's plan. So depending, it doesn't matter what platform or what investment solution, you can track a client's plan so that it's always tracking in the background, so that when you come to your annual review reports, you're able to share that annual tracking with your client, again, demonstrating the value of advice and actually the fact that as an advisor, you're focused on achieving the client's goals. And actually what's happening in the background is the robustness stress testing of the investment plan or platform that you've chosen as the advisor.
Absolutely. How and where does the system provide the product research? And is it steered towards recommended timeline platform, or is it the open, the whole market? Can you demonstrate that, show that, or is there a part that we can see?
Yeah, so absolutely, let's go into it. So no, the system is not designed to equals timeline at all. In fact, let me just stop sharing for 1 second because it'll ask me for a security question that I can't give you in a public environment. And I'm going to show you that there's a different way that you can demonstrate a different investment solution.
Brilliant.
That we can just make sure that we are
off the cuff, Kate. Do you know how many firms and individuals are currently using the system?
Oh gosh, that changes so.
Don't worry about it if you want to come back to us.
No, I think we're somewhere in the region of 457 firms using the system at the moment. But again, please no one quote me on that because it does change often. And let me just go back into the system because I've done the security question. So I've just moved to a different client here. I'm going to go into his charts and we'll go into his plan. And we can see down here, we've got a balanced. If I go then into advisor recommendations, you can see here again, this is just a generic linked plan. And then if you wanted to go into financial planning goals, so there's lots of ways you can word the system. You can see that this is a real in-depth change to the client. So this demonstrates that reduced in spending for the question that was asked earlier on. So again, you can factor that all into the client's spending and how it doesn't have an impact. And you can use the sustainability chart to demonstrate how the client will be absolutely fine from the income. Down here, you've got a timeline classic. Apologies, it's been amended. There was a different provider here, which I believe was HSBC. So we used a HSBC for the ISA, but it's been amended, so apologies. But the system absolutely does not need and does not equal timeline portfolios. So in the settings area here, you'll see that you can set up all of the different withdrawal orders, account withdrawals, all of the different pieces of the puzzle that the client might own. And what you can also do in the portfolio is go in to the GIA as an example. You can select the category. You can then either select a particular model, and when you set up your own timeline super app, you can import any model you like, and you can then use that. Or in the model portfolio center here, you can build any portfolio of your choice. So if you run your own in-house portfolios, you can build them so you can model those. If you use Vanguard or Waverton or Quilter, you can build any portfolio of your choice in here, or you can indeed link the real holdings. So again, there's lots of different ways for the advisors or firms to be able to go in and model these things against the solutions you're using today. It's not an equals timeline.
How much functionality does FE Analytics have within the system?
So in the analytics piece, so in analytics, we've got 2 integrations. So when you go in to build a client's financial plan for comparison, you've got 4 options. Hopefully the system is jumping and you're on our analytics page, Lee.
Yep.
It's got a Morningstar live API feed into the system, and it also has an FE feed into the system. So you've got 4 options when you build your customs. You can just do a quick test. Copy and paste if you've got your funds and ISINs on an Excel. Add new fund by simply searching and typing the fund of choice, or import from your FE Analytics account.
Lovely. Brilliant. Is there a desktop app version, or is it web browser based at the moment?
Web browser based at the moment.
Cool. Is desktop to come maybe in the force? Is it spoke about, or are you very much focused on the web browser at the moment?
It's very much focused on the web browser at the moment. I don't actually know the answer to the desktop piece, so I will take that away and find an answer for your advisors. It's probably just worth noting as well that there's also within the system kind of huge areas where we've got secure messaging and indeed a portal on the roadmap for this year.
Perfect. With Better Nicer, is there a CGT calculation functionality?
Good question. Don't know the answer to that. Gosh, tough audience.
Gina, what have you done to us? You've
I know.
Gina, we'll come back to you. I'll make a note. I'll get Kate or myself. We'll send you an email.
It is an automatic process, and therefore you can do the calculations from one to another. But I just want to check the CTG piece to be absolutely sure, as we're being recording and we're live on air.
Forever on our system.
Ever and ever, yeah.
Kate said will be echoed around the industry for years to come.
It.
Is
there a CDT question?
Is there a phone app for the client portal?
For clients to phone.
I suppose for clients to log on to their portal, is there an app that they can log on and see their portfolio, their holdings, or their secure messaging? Is there a physical app?
Yep. So when you download this, there is a mobile app version at the moment that's in testing, so the client can go into the secure messaging piece and send messages backwards and forwards. Yes.
Cool. Hopefully that answered the question for you, Nicole. We've got a few questions on cost, which is great. Before we jump into the cost side of things, we've got CPD certificates. Okay, fine. Is there a link to the app subscription plans that you can send? So I think we've got a few things coming in on cost, really. With the super app, is there certain parts that you can plug in and play, or is it a full suite, take the lot or take none kind of approach?
Yeah. So essentially, there is only one cost for the super app, and that's kind of done in 2 different ways. But you can then decide as you and your business whether or not you want to have all of the ecosystem, or you want to only use parts of it.
Perfect. That is amazing. Kate, you are 3 minutes on time, which is amazing.
Very quickly, sorry, beg your pardon.
I was going to say, if anybody's got any other questions, throw them over. Kate, if there's any other part of the system that you want to touch on or demonstrate, please feel free.
I just wanted to end with what we'll do after this is clearly share a link. What you're able to do is go on to our system. You can create a demo account. It will allow you to load up to 3 clients, so that it'll give you the option to be able to go in and have a play. Have a look around. There's a chat function within the system that goes through to live people. So therefore, and as I said, there's explainers and videos at every point of the journey, but you've got my details for people to be able to come through to me and ask any questions. But please, by all means, go into the system and have a play around and have a look at the system and let me know what you think.
Yeah, that's great. Marie, we'll get some costings over to, if anybody's interested in the costings, we'll get them over to you for sure. As maybe have a conversation with Kate as well, and just have a look at the system in a little bit more detail, because I assume you might be in that 30+ hours, and we want to get you out of that into the 10 less and try and save some time. Time is money. It's so important that we're using tech to the best of our abilities, and we're not being left in the days of paperweights and sending things off manually. It's tech's huge, isn't it, these days? I think you've got to be at the forefront. You've got to be trying and testing everything just to make your life and your team's life a lot easier, really. So any final questions for Kate while you've got her? We've got one question that we're going to come back to, and that was Gina, so we'll come back to you on that one. Not a problem at all. Anybody else? We've got a couple of minutes left.
Gosh, yeah, I've done well. Kind of bring it back in time.
I think you've done really well to keep it. It's one of those things where you could have probably went on for ages. This
Yes, yeah.
part, that part, I want to show this, I want to show that, but it's really, really good. And if anybody wants to know more, see more, they can absolutely. John's saying, are you going to give the cost? How much is it to use the timeline platform?
So there's two options that we offer. We have a per month per license cost,
Yep.
or you can utilize the DFM element where you pay a DFM charge to be able to. Maybe it's an individual person's question to reach out to me to understand, what they're doing and how they're looking to use the system. Wanted to focus today on planning. So yeah, happy for those to reach out and I can walk them through the different options.
Brilliant. How secure is the system, Kate?
So again, because I'm not a coder or a developer, I've got terrible analogies to be able to describe this. We have the same security base called Haruko, and I've definitely said that wrong, which is the same system that Amazon use. So that should go to show the strength of the system and the security.
Perfect. Is there a vulnerability assessment in the system?
No, there isn't, Malcolm. No. But I'd love to understand the question behind that, Malcolm. If you've got 5 minutes to drop me an email on it, I'd be interested, please. Thank you.
And like I said, you'll all get an email afterwards as well. So we'll share Kate's details and feel free to do what you need to do, along with a scorecard app and everything and scorecard in your business. Someone's dropped in an advisor 3.0. That's
Gosh.
Hannah.
Yeah, Hannah, of course, we've got our big conference in May, Advisor 3.0, and we'd love to see you all there. It's got a huge speaker lineup. It focuses on kind of how you grow yourself as an advisor, businesses, what's the industry doing, who's leading in what. So please do have a look in the link that will come out in the email and join us.
I love the fact that Hannah's probably sitting there going, she's going to mention it any minute. She's going to, no, she's forgot. I'm going to say Advisor 3.0. And there's a link.
There's a link also in the chat.
I'd like to be on that phone call afterwards, Kate. And there's your
Mark,
link.
there is, at the moment, we are focusing on an AI integration around lots of different elements. So lots of exciting news to share Advisor 3.0 around that, Mark. So yes, it's on the roadmap.
Brilliant. I think you've got to be on the AI bandwagon at the moment, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Well, it has been a pleasure to have you all with us. If there's no final questions, we will definitely wrap things up, and thank you all for joining us. Just trying to see how we get out of certain things. We'll stop the recording